Why are you so afraid to admit that we are connected? Face it, we shared mom's womb. We were roommates.
Oh, that is just disgusting.
Yeah, I have an idea. On the show, there were these twins, and they finished each other's sentences. Jack, maybe you could start a sentence, and Jill, you could finish it.
No.
Come on, Daddy, please, please.
Ready to receive mental images.
Will you stop you scaring him? It's just noises she's making. Okay, ready?
Yes.
I'm very tired, so I'm going to...
Go to the supermarket.
No, I'm going to sleep. Why would I go to the supermarket if I was tired?
It's what I would do. The cold air always wakes you up. Isn't it nice when you go over there in the frozen food section?
God bless.
You! God bless you! Got your Pagogo!
What's Pagogo?
Oh, it's a name that Aunt Jill used to call your dad when they were growing up.
I was Pokey and your father was Pagogo. We had our own secret language. Ook Magadodo, Pagogo.
I have no idea what those words mean, nor have I ever known what those words meant.
You do know what they mean, and you're lying right now. Ook Magadodo means I love you. Bongi means thank you. Clapper means left.
Hey, do you remember what Laki Maki Coco means?
Don't.
It means I can't stand you being here!
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick, a Coen brothers stand up with Timothy Chalamet. A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel, Alvin and the Chipmunks deserve another squeak. There's so many new ways to revisit sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update. But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Want to smoke a J? Perhaps you've heard this question at a party or other social gathering. For those who aren't hip to the lingo, a J is a nickname for a joint, which is in itself a nickname for a marijuana cigarette, a term that dates back to 1938 derived from the French word gendre, later adopted by the Irish as a synonym for an annex, or small room that adjoins a larger room. In this case, it refers to an opium den. 1 year prior to the adoption of the word joint to refer to the sticky icky, the Marijuana Tax Act was set into place as the first national regulation of cannabis in the United States, and then was outlawed across America in 1970, though efforts to remove any restrictions around the sale of the devil's lettuce became more popular in the 1960s. Over the years, many celebrities became ardent supporters of lifting restrictions on weed. In Jamaica, Bob Marley spoke out about the herb's legality. In the UK, all four Beatles and rebel billionaire Richard Branson sparked up and spoke up. But the United States boasts the highest number of celebrity ganja supporters, such as space case Carl Sagan, poet Allen Ginsberg, Kamala Harris ex-beau Montel Williams, Olympic commentator Calvin Broadus Jr., and RFK Jr. supporter Woody Harrelson, who also narrated the 1999 documentary Grass, chronicling the history of U.S. government's efforts to criminalize cannabis. But Woody Harrelson is known for a few other things aside from activism. He is the son of Charles Harrelson, a confirmed hitman who may be linked to the assassination of RFK Jr.'s uncle John F. Kennedy. He is a big fan of the game chess, even having performed the ceremonial first move akin to a baseball game's first pitch in several World Chess Championship games. He also dabbles in acting and has been nominated for several Emmy, Oscar, Golden Globe, and SAG Awards, even going as far as having won 1 Emmy and 2 SAG Awards. The characters he plays run the gamut from basketball player to gruff cop to magician to magazine publisher. But in 2003, Harrelson distastefully portrayed a male arena security guard by night and female sex worker by day, opposite Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler in the film Anger Management. But this isn't the only Nicholson or Sandler film where a man dresses and acts like a female for comedic effect. In the 1968 film Head, which was written and produced by Nicholson, it features a The 1968 film Head, which was written and produced by Nicholson, also features a cameo from the soon-to-be famous actor. In Head, T.C. Jones plays the dual role of both Mr. and Mrs. Ace. Jones was known to perform in drag as famous women, such as Mae West, Judy Garland, and Katharine Hepburn. And in 2011, Adam Sandler would also write and produce a film where he would play a dual role as a man, his sister, and the man masquerading as his sister. Greetings, Starfighters. This is Ruined Childhoods, and on this episode, we're discussing Dennis Dugan's flop, Jack and Jill. And much like a joint, perhaps this film is worthy of being passed on. Or passed on. That's kind of like a... Depends on how you say it. It has a different vibe to it, so...
It's so true. It's so true. The connotation, everything. And it's, in this case, so opposite as, you know, if you're passing something on, you not only appreciate it, you feel others should. And likewise, if you have no appreciation whatsoever, you're going to pass on it. Well, you maybe should have passed on it, but you might advise others to pass on it. So, wow, what a wonderful... John, should we be taking notes? Is there going to be a test? Every one of these intros is a history lesson, reminder of things that might be buried. I've completely forgot about Woody Harrelson in Anger Management.
As you should have.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've also largely forgot about that movie.
Yeah, Anger Management is a tough one. And it was kind of funny while I was writing the intro, in that part of the intro, because yes, he's a security guard presenting as a male at night. And I was going to say, but later at night, you know, he's a sex worker by later at night, but it's not true because it's a daytime scene that he is a female, well, transgender sex worker.
I have no, I don't know. I haven't seen that movie since I saw it in the theater. So, but
you saw Anger Management in the theater. I mean, I think that I watched it when it was streaming, or I don't even remember how I saw it, but not good.
It's one of those, it's also one of those movies that I just like, the people I saw it with, I have associations that are negative already. And on top of that, it's because it's a movie that like I would consider revisiting, because it's like, I like Sandler, I like Nicholson. I also, at this point, Sandler was not necessarily making, you know, the movie, his movies weren't working for me the way that they had.
Well, you know, that would have been probably around the same time as Punch Drunk Love.
Well, yeah, Punch Drunk Love was 2002. So,
right,
I mean,
that was a year after, maybe?
Right. I mean, not even, because Punch Drunk Love came out in fall 2002. Anger Management was spring 2003. And so maybe it was just that, like, it was such a fall.
Well, for me and Adam Sandler, I mean, loved Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Loved Happy Gilmore. I was not a big Daddy fan. And it just, I don't know, it just slipped further and further for me
Wedding
as far
Singer?
as he goes. The Wedding Singer is great. The Wedding Singer is great. And obviously Airheads we love.
Waterboy?
Waterboy I do like a lot, but that one took me a while to come around to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Airheads is there, but it's it's more of an ensemble film.
It's not really an Adam Sandler movie because that was kind of like basically his first. I mean, there was like Going Overboard, but like Airheads was like his first like
Mixed
movie.
Nuts was around, was a little bit after that.
Sure.
And there were like, I think maybe I remember when he was on the Cosby Show.
Right. Yeah.
As Smitty. Well, and I was thinking, it's funny. So, you know, of course, for those new to the podcast, first of all, welcome.
Hey.
We're happy to have you. Secondly, I teach high school, and it is a thing, not just at my high school, but it is a thing now when you have your Spirit Week, where every day is a different thing. Adam Sandler Day.
Really?
That there is a day, there's just a day where you can dress as characters from the movies, or you just wear like oversized shorts and t-shirts and dress.
That's funny.
And it was funny because I asked them about it, and I was like, what is it? I'm like, I get it. Like I was in high school when They're All Gonna Laugh at You came out, and, you know, we all had it memorized,
of course,
and all that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was in college through all of his, movies that came out, Wedding Singer and
Right.
Waterboy and all that. So I'm like, I get, but like, why? And they were like, because he is incredibly wealthy, but dresses like not like he's very wealthy. Basically,
He dresses
was the
exactly
response I got.
like he's really wealthy.
Well, yeah, and-
because he doesn't need to
He
put
doesn't
on
need to impress
airs
anybody.
because he can afford to dress however he wants.
Well, yeah, I know. We're talking kid logic here.
But that's why they're into him, is because he's wealthy but doesn't dress wealthy.
It's kind of his image. I'm probably not doing it justice. I do think it's more of just like now his image,
right.
just as like he's the guy who will just go and jump in to like a pickup basketball game on a
Right.
street court.
I dressed as Billy Madison for Halloween like 12 or 13 years ago. And
Okay.
it was one of those like last minute, oh, I'm going to a party, I need to throw something together things. And it's kind of like backwards hat. I had just like a shirt, and on the inside and the bottom I wrote Frank really big. Because
Okay.
there's the scene where he's like, this is actually Frank's shirt. And he like lifts up the bottom, it just says Frank on it.
And it says Frank. So doesn't it say Frank like written in just the strangest way, so that when he holds it up, it is written
It's perfect. Yeah.
correctly, but it's like, yeah,
It makes no
that's
sense
so funny.
whatsoever.
Billy Madison is one of those that like I dismissed when it came out. I was in high school, and then when I was in college,
Yeah.
and people started to talk about it, and
It's so
I
much
finally
fun.
watched it. So strange.
Yeah.
And so Sandler is just like, yeah, so that's the thing with him, is for any of these days. And the funny thing is as much as kids love him, I'm sure if you're like, oh, what's your favorite joke from Little Nicky?
Mm-hmm.
He'd be like, what?
I don't know if I could answer that, because I don't know if I've ever even actually seen it. It
I
never
saw
interested me.
I didn't see it in the theater. I watched it on DVD, and it was kind of fun. It was one of Rodney Dangerfield's last appearances.
Oh, yeah.
And like Reese Ifans was
Right. Mm-hmm.
big, had just like done Notting Hill.
Right.
So
It was that era.
Yeah, so he was in. I mean, he's been pretty consistent though. He's constantly in stuff.
But
He
it was
in
when
Naiad.
it was just like, he was everywhere.
Well, yeah. When it was like, oh, we've got this character in this movie, let's get this
Yeah.
guy.
Sure.
And right, yeah. Yeah. It was right there. I remember there was the jokes about. I remember the like Popeye's chicken. It was really big. I guess there was some sort of deal with Popeye's chicken, but
It must have been how like with Happy Gilmore there was like the Subway.
Yeah. So there were just all of these lines about Popeye's chicken, and I don't remember much more than that. But I just remember thinking like, this is goofy, and I haven't gotten back to it because I'm like, I don't like I found it amusing at the time. I don't know that I will find it funnier now, especially because that's not my preferred like Adam Sandler character.
Sure.
The
Who was
kind
your favorite
of
Adam Sandler character?
my favorite
goat?
Adam's. Oh, the goat is the goat's fantastic.
The goat is great.
Have fun mosh pitting.
I would
I told you we had it
I would
memorized.
quote, but I don't think that there's any other quote that you can say even
No.
on podcasts.
No. But that's yeah. I really enjoyed the goat character. In terms of the movies, though, actually, you know what Adam Sandler movie I really enjoyed was Mr. Deeds.
I don't know if I actually ever saw it. I mean, it's got Winona Ryder, so I know
It's
that I
got-
would like that part about it.
It has so many. It's got so many quirks about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of like Peter Gallagher's the bad guy in it.
Okay.
It follows the Sandler formula. It also has like kind of fun, like New England accents when they're up in because he's from New Hampshire, so they all have really heavy New England accents. And there's some really fun sequences in it. And who's the actor?
John Turturro is in it.
Oh, John Turturro is fantastic in it. I love John. I quote his character in that movie with I can do it, and it does. And people don't need to know it, and I'll just
that's fun.
I'll say something. It'll be totally in context, but I'll be like, "Look, I know it." And honestly, this is the way it is with other John Turturro characters, because I quote Roland T. Flackpfizer all the time,
of course,
anybody knowing it
naturally.
Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't? Okay.
Well, and also just while you're doing that, it's a good opportunity to point out that like Adam Sandler movies very quickly became opportunities for actors who typically do more serious stuff to have a little fun and show up either as a bigger role or as a cameo. And certainly we know that Adam Sandler has gone on to continue to make movies that are just like, hey, I'm going to do this with my buddies, or he's got these like
his Netflix movies,
the Netflix movies, but there's like the Grown-Ups movies and stuff like that. Yeah. And, his partnerships with Drew Barrymore and Jennifer Aniston. And there's just so much that he's known for. But yeah, I mean, just like with Woody Harrelson and Anger Management, and also people like Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison, his buddy from Airheads.
Buscemi is in a lot of them.
He's in a lot of them, yeah.
He's in Deeds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he pops up in Deeds. Who I mean, of course, Rob Schneider, like Adam Sandler's.
Sure, yeah. But I'm talking about the actual legit actors who show up in his stuff. And I know that Kathy Bates for Waterboy, just real quick, in an interview, somebody asked her like, what was it about it? And she's like, oh, I got that script and I threw it in the trash. And I think she said like her daughter or like her assistant or somebody like picked it out of the trash and said, what's this? And she goes, oh, some dumb thing. And she saw that Adam Sandler was on it and was like, you have to do this. And she was so glad that she did. And of course, her role is iconic in that. And she's fantastic.
She's fantastic in that. Winkler is fantastic in that. Okay, so hold on. So the actor here, and I'm holding up a picture just so John can, of course, you'll look him up, but Eric Avari, Erickavari, who plays one of Peter Gallagher's assistants in this. You might recognize him. He's also there. There's a couple of other actors that he like looks and sounds similar to, but he is so funny in this.
Okay.
As he's Peter Gallagher's assistant, but like you could tell he like wants to break out, and he's the likable person who's aligned with the bad guy.
Well, maybe I'll give it a go.
Anyway, so, and of course, while we're talking about Adam Sandler movies, and you mentioned Punch Drunk Love, of course, and he's done other, like, either less silly comedies, things like the Meyerowitz stories.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems, which not a comedy.
Right.
At all. But it's fantastic. And
if you're talking about comedies that have a serious tone to it, I mean, Funny People.
Yeah. Funny People's another one. I wasn't crazy about that one, but
I like Funny People.
Yeah. There are some things that have stuck with me, but it was too much. There was too much going on in that. But Spanglish, which is not terrible. It's kind of, if I remember correctly, because I'm pretty sure I caught it on like HBO at some point 20 years ago. And aside from the fact that it's got a great Cloris Leachman performance, I feel like it approaches a topic. It's James L. Brooks, and it's kind of like it was kind of like a couple of years later, and James L. Brooks couldn't have made that movie.
Okay. I don't know if I've actually ever seen it. However, I was working at a movie theater in Philadelphia because because I'm sure it came out in like 2005, which would have been when I was
Something like
working
that, yeah.
at this theater. And we got a bunch of like promotional material for like a screening of it or something. And I ended up with a Spanglish apron and had that for a while. Wow. I think it's the only apron I've ever owned, to be honest.
Oh boy. No, I need to make a note of that. The holidays are coming.
But I think that it's also, while we're talking about Adam Sandler movies and the incredible actors who tend to show up in them, it's a perfect opportunity to talk about Jack and Jill, where you have,
wow.
One of the greatest actors, Al Pacino, playing himself in, I would say, a role that makes this movie watchable.
Yes.
Otherwise, I can't see any real redeeming qualities to it. But the sincerity with which Al Pacino plays this version of himself is phenomenal. And I really loved watching him do this thing. And, clearly we talk about Al Pacino a bunch on this podcast, specifically on the last episode for Insomnia.
Well, yeah.
And it's so fascinating to watch this person who is one of the greats.
Yeah.
Do this thing that like is completely ridiculous. And even on paper, I'm sure that it looked as wacky as it does on screen.
Well, John, in fact, it is really, so it's interesting. The whole way that Al Pacino ended up doing this movie, because
does he talk about it in his book?
Well, John, yes. And I was going to should I play a clip from it?
I don't know if we can because of copyright.
Probably
issues.
not kosher, but also this is one of the excerpts, or this is something that, like, when the book was coming out and there was, the press around it and he was doing interviews, this was one of the stories that came out in advance. So because I also like it's really a wonderful, at least like I listened to the audio book where it's him. So, how could that not be incredible? And he doesn't talk about all of his movies. He doesn't mention Insomnia.
Right.
But he talks about Jack and Jill because one thing that's very clear from his memoir is that he's like an artist and he has no clue what to do with money. And he trusted accountants that he shouldn't have trusted. And
Tale as old as
trusted
time.
Lawyers. I mean, there's a great story in there about how when he was dating Diane Keaton, she went with him into his lawyer's office and just like he sat there while she, said like, here's what you're going to do. And this is what you need to do. And this is what's going on. And this isn't right. So, you have to hear him tell the story, but he basically lost all his money.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first movie that he did.
Oh, okay.
Because he needed the money and he, he liked Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler really wanted him to, to be in it. And he doesn't speak badly of it. Like, he definitely owns his failures and mistakes, and he definitely is he talks about like Revolution, and movies like that. But
I wouldn't call this a failure though, because his performance is great.
Well, no. But I'm saying like he will talk about the missteps in his career. What he says about Jack and Jill was that he did it because he needed the money. Mm-hmm. But that, like, Adam Sandler has become a close friend of his, and, he loves him, and that this movie gave him that opportunity. And on top of that, yes, my God. And it was so much fun to watch it, like, right after hearing, like, finishing the book. And he's so wonderful. He's so funny.
He's so good.
And also great cameos, because I don't think they'll come up again, but like his Johnny Depp. And what's funny is you read from listening to the book, I mean, you remember that he was in Donnie Brasco with Johnny Depp, but they actually became like good friends.
Oh, okay. I didn't
know
know
that. And yeah, no, in real life. Who else? They have all the cameos in that one party scene. It's
Well, they have all of the like ad pitch people. So
the
Jared from
ShamWow.
Subway.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Jared from Subway, which I was like, oh, okay. So this was definitely.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was like, I thought the whole Jared from Subway stuff kind of went down before this.
It's more recent than you would think.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I remember that happening earlier, but I don't know. Maybe I just had a feeling about him from the beginning.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you said the ShamWow guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
right.
trying to.
Well,
yeah.
Do you want to do the synopsis so that this will make more sense for anybody who hasn't seen the cult classic Jack and Jill?
It'll definitely make more sense with this, because Jack Saddlestein has it all. He has a lovely wife, 2 spirited children, and is a partner at Sonny and Saddlestein, a Los Angeles advertising agency that specializes in celebrity-endorsed television commercials. Jack is currently on the hook to tap actor Al Pacino for a Dunkin' Donuts commercial advertising the Dunkachino, a drink that bears a name similar to Al's own. But Jack has another problem. His exhausting twin sister Jill is coming to town from the Bronx to spend Thanksgiving together, which is especially difficult since their mother, with whom Jill was very close, has recently passed away. Jill, along with her bird, Poopsie, come to town and complicates each and every one of Jack's responsibilities. After a harrowing attempt to busy Jill with LA's dating scene, Jack feels guilty and invites Jill to join him at a Lakers game where he's supposed to schmooze with Pacino and convince him to come on board for the commercial. But nothing can capture Pacino's attention until he spots Jill. Discovering that they are both from the Bronx, Jill lifts Al out of a funk, and he's enraptured by her infectious personality. But Jill isn't feeling it. She's heartbroken from a bad online dating experience and hasn't quite bounced back. Jill, unable to get out of her own funk, decides to stay with Jack through Hanukkah, but he's getting more and more nervous that she'll insist on coming with his family on their post-New Year's cruise. But as Jack continues to fail at landing Pacino, and Pacino continues to fail at landing Jill, Jack takes the opportunity to exploit his sister's femininity, resulting in a cruise ship fiasco where nobody wins. As Jack and Jill, we have the aforementioned Adam Sandler. As himself, we have the aforementioned Al Pacino. As Jack's long-suffering wife, actually, she's not really long-suffering. She seems fine. But we have Katie Holmes stepping into the, that role in the Adam Sandler formula,
Sure, right. She's not given too much to do. But it should be noted that Katie Holmes is Thanksgiving movie royalty.
I was going to say,
Pieces of April.
Yep. Yeah, indeed. So, and, she's Katie Holmes. Right. Like you said, she's not, necessarily given hard. She definitely, had to do some heavier lifting with Pieces of April. And I'm not just talking about lifting the turkey, but.
Oh, boy.
So, we also have Nick Swardson as Jack's assistant, and then the usual Adam Sandler cast of characters. The I'm still looking at the cast for Mr. Deeds, which I was probably fine. I could probably find all the names I need there.
Well, David Spade plays a woman, not a transgender woman. It just plays a woman who Jack and Jill had gone to high school with, who they see at a bar towards the end of the movie.
Is that David Spade?
Are you serious?
I totally.
What did you think that was?
I wasn't, honestly. I wasn't thinking at that point. I think I was more just marveling that. So also, if you've listened to previous episodes, you likely know that I rarely can watch a movie in one sitting, whether it's because I have other things to do or I fall asleep. I think by that point I was just marveling that I was actually going to watch this movie in one sitting. So yeah. So that anyway, I had no idea. So yeah, there we go. David Spade as Monica. Tim Meadows is in it.
Oh yeah.
Alan Covert. That's the
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That's the and the late great Norm Macdonald.
Yep. Mm-hmm. A brief appearance.
Dana
Jenner.
Carvey. What's that?
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah. Caitlyn Jenner. Which also interesting, dead named in this.
Well, right. But it was at the time when that was the name that she was going by, and also was, you know, presenting as male.
Well, right. Yeah. So, but it's just interesting that she, again, I don't necessarily have the timeline, but.
Right. Well, this must have been, very shortly before the, coming out and transition. And,
definitely.
But also in a role, like a role that had no lines and was just like playing themselves.
On IMDb, it's Caitlyn Jenner is credited with playing Bruce Jenner.
Well, that makes sense because
the
actor was playing themselves, but at the time was called out by name as Bruce Jenner.
Yeah. It's an interesting, interesting workaround in here. We've got, Drew Carey, of course, as
right, because
himself.
There's the Price is Right sequence. Mm-hmm.
Jill goes on The Price is Right. That was, Regis Philbin cameos.
Right.
Shaquille O'Neal. I thought his cameo was pretty funny.
That was funny. Yeah.
John McEnroe, who also appears in Deeds, who has a very funny appearance in Deeds. And let me see. I think that's pretty much it. But the crew, it's like Peter Dante, Jonathan Loughran, Alan Covert, all the people that you see in the different in the Sandler movies, Waterboy.
Sure.
I think starting, I feel like maybe starting with Waterboy. No, Happy Gilmore. His caddy, the caddy, the homeless caddy, Alan Covert plays him. So all right. Of course, directed by Dennis Dugan.
Sure. Director of Brain Donors.
Yeah, who also plays Al Pacino's Standby.
Right. Yeah,
during
the
scene
understudy.
He takes anyway, I don't want to give a lot away because I'm guessing a lot of people maybe haven't seen this movie, even though it's the highest grossing Thanksgiving movie ever. But I'm guessing maybe our listeners haven't seen it. And I like, it is, if you like Al Pacino, it is worth watching for his performance.
In the intro to last week's episode, the Insomnia episode, I talk a little bit about how Al Pacino portrays, Richard III, and that is the play within the movie. So Al Pacino is currently in this play and is catching some heat because during a performance somebody's cell phone goes off and he lashes out at them, and so he's getting some negative press, which is the ad agency's opportunity to take advantage of a situation and get him at a point where he's maybe a little desperate, which is funny considering the fact that the reason why he took the role in Jack and Jill is because he was desperate.
Well, know? Yeah. And I do believe that this was before Patti LuPone turned scolding an audience member into an art. Which,
you know what? I would love to be yelled at by Patti LuPone, but I don't want to deserve it.
I've been called a twit by Elaine Stritch, and that was enough for me. Thank you.
That's pretty good.
I don't think I can handle being yelled at by Patti LuPone.
Yeah.
I don't have the strength.
If you're getting yelled at by Patti LuPone, it means that you're completely
terrible.
In the wrong.
You're in the wrong place. You do not belong where you are.
I loved at the beginning of the pandemic when everybody was just kind of trying to figure out what to do to get by, and she was doing these like Instagram live things, just like
tours
going
of her apartment,
through her house, and and just like, you know, prancing around and stuff. And she was just such a delight. It was really a highlight of those like weird dark times.
Right.
And I loved it.
The Gal Gadot Imagine days.
Oh my goodness. That was painful. Yeah.
My favorite celebrity videos, my favorites were Arnold Schwarzenegger with his donkeys. Whiskey and Lulu.
Sure. Absolutely. Those are pretty good. Yeah. And, But going back to Jack and Jill, the way that Al Pacino, you know, has those moments when he's performing in Richard III and is like freaking out at the audience, it's so much fun. And something that I was thinking about while I was watching Al Pacino in Jack and Jill is, and I really appreciate Al Pacino for this. And of course we see him in a lot of, interviews more lately. There were definitely the ones that were getting a lot of press because of his Shrek phone case that his like daughter got for him, which is amazing. But I look at Al Pacino and how he has aged, and it is just like Al Pacino has aged like an actual Italian man who does not come off with any sense of pretension, does not seem vain in any way. And then I look at somebody like Sylvester Stallone, who just looks like the artificial human with bizarre eyebrows, and nothing on him looks authentic. And
he did not want to age past, I want to say, like 1986.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think Stallone wanted, I was going to say 93 cliffhanger, but I think even by then already, he was like preserving his 86. Like, I feel like he looks at Cobra and he's like, that's right there.
That's peak Stallone.
Yeah. But yeah, Pacino, and he talks about it in his book too. He doesn't like brag about it, but he just talks about, he's like, I go out to take a walk because I heard it's good for you to do that. And he's like, I'm out, I'm wearing my sweatpants. He's like, I just go out and he's like, they get pictures of me and all you see is the white hair. And that's all I have is white. And he's just like, and exactly, it's, he's an old Italian guy and by the way, something that I found funnier because of the book, the book is very much, he does make a big deal about being from the Bronx. And actually, John, so I looked it up because he talks about like the tenement where he grew up, and I looked it up because I taught in the South Bronx.
Sure.
He grew up a few blocks from where I taught in the South Bronx.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was like, that sounds, I'm like, one of those cross streets is definitely like where the school is. I'm like, what's the other? And I looked at it on the map, and so, but he does make a big deal out of that. And he's constantly going back to talking about his friends that he grew up with.
Yeah.
And how like he was kind of the only one to really like make it out.
Got it.
So it was so funny that when he found out that Jill's from the Bronx.
Right.
And he just locked into
that. It
rings
true.
I was like that. Yeah, but he's totally like that guy who's just like, he's like, I get this is where I ended up. Like, it wasn't part of some grand scheme, but it's like, okay, this decision led to that, led to that, led to that. And, you know, now, yeah. And he's here and he's great.
Sure. Well, clearly, Al Pacino is something that we liked about Jack and Jill. I wish that I could think of other things that I necessarily liked about it. I will say the first time that I saw it was when it first came out. And, you know, it's 2011, which is the year that I started podcasting.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had a podcast with my buddy and past guest, Eric Goslin. And we had this weird show called Stranger Fan Fiction, in which we would challenge each other to write erotic fan fiction based on whatever the other person wanted. And I challenged him to write one about the new release, Jack and Jill. And I told him, I realize what I'm doing to you, and for that reason, I will go with you to see it and I will pay for you. And that's how I saw it first. And of course, it was absolute trash. I did enjoy it more on this most recent viewing than I did in the theater.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I have a different appreciation for Al Pacino than I did at the time.
Yeah.
And that's really the saving grace. Now, as far as anything else that's enjoyable, I did actually, and it's a very Adam Sandler movie kind of a thing, but the old woman at the groundskeeper's cookout.
Yes.
So Jill becomes friendly with the guy who does the landscaping at
Felipe,
the character of Jack's, house.
Yeah.
And he likes her quite a bit. His wife had passed away and really likes Jill and invites her to his family cookout. And that scene, it's a very Adam Sandler movie scene. And there's this like old grandma lady, this like old abuela.
Stereotype. Yep.
It's complete stereotype.
Yep.
But within the context of what's going on, makes sense and works. And she's constantly eating these like super hot chili peppers. She's got this one tooth that's just like, who knows what it's connected to. And she's got these like funny eyes and is constantly getting like hit by things. And, I don't know if it's just because in comparison to everything else, it was a little funny, but it did get me a little bit.
It went so far by the time they're reviving her with the peppers.
Yeah.
All right. So I watched this movie on my like computer monitor.
Oh, okay.
And I had it on and I was doing, just like a couple of other things, but I was watching it. I may have consumed something that helped me find it funnier. And
was it something that I mentioned in the episode's intro?
Yeah.
Okay.
That type of product, completely fully legal in the state of Washington. But there was definitely some of that happening. And I acknowledge I shame laughed through it. I was laughing, and there were parts where I was laughing hard, and I was like, I am shame laughing. And it was like, some of it was in that scene. Now, some of it in that scene, I was like, I was really turned off by. I was also, I got the sense through a lot of it. One of the things that, and I will get back to the value that I found in the movie. I'll phrase it that way. But in I walked into it kind of expecting to be, just kind of remembering like, okay, even since 2011, like a lot has changed. And, just thinking about representation of transgender people or
Right.
not transgender people, but just like, the practice of men wearing women's clothes and playing women for humor, not for point. This is not Tootsie. This is, and that's not what this is. Adam Sandler is playing a biological female.
Right. Yes.
And her twin brother. So he's not playing a transgender person, but just that sense of representation or perhaps misrepresentation, especially to Adam Sandler's audience, largely, teen boys probably is the, intended audience for something like this. So putting that messaging across, I think, is potentially harmful. But I actually in like kind of looking at the character of Jill and seeing like either some trauma or mental illness.
Right.
I was actually more bothered by that and saying like, we're making, light of this. And like, clearly she has something going on.
Right.
And, the fact that we're not necessarily specific about it and just making like making her vaguely weird, like an Adam Sandler caricature. It's Gap Girl.
Sure.
It's Gap Girls. It's
right.
It's kind of a, it's a maybe a 5-minute gag that doesn't belong in this time.
It's a character from one of his sketch albums.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, but it was more that like that idea of like mental health and that
right.
Jill was having those, like that was what bothered me more, that and a lot of the like Mexican stereotypes.
Sure. Right.
And
the standard Adam Sandler movie type stuff.
Right. Though I do feel like there were moments like the thing with the grandmother where it went so far and so extreme. It was like, okay.
It crossed over to the other side a little bit.
Yeah. Like you went so far, you came back around. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, Jill, it's by design, it's just not good. And it's unfortunate and it's upsetting. And I feel like it is a bit of a product of its time. And I would be shocked if anything like that was seriously made now.
It's not even, it's a product. It's a product of its time, but really not, because like it's a product of earlier.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why the movie didn't. I mean, I guess the box office did fine, but like that it's not critically acclaimed is because it is not a movie for a modern audience.
I feel like it like, yeah, they were too late, I guess, though.
Yeah.
I don't think there was ever a right time.
Right, because it's not like it's doing what Mrs. Doubtfire did.
Or Tootsie.
Right, but Tootsie is much earlier than Mrs. Doubtfire even.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, yeah, at this time we were already getting things that, I mean, I'm trying to remember what year, like Albert Nobbs was, where it's a drama.
I think Albert Nobbs was around the same time, but
right around the same time. So it's about a woman who, in order to survive, poses as a man. And so it's a completely different, it's
Same
not
year.
even comparison, but it's like they somehow fall into a similar category just because of the nature of what the actor is doing in it. But also in that movie, it is still a woman who is like the character is a woman all the way through.
Right.
But Jill is a woman played by a man who is a cisgender man, and a heterosexual cisgender man at that. And then at the end, when, I mean, and this was alluded to earlier, but Jack masquerades as Jill wearing her clothes. Somehow he has a wig that's her hair. They don't even explain that one. And then we have to just kind of accept that as being okay. And it really isn't. And it's unfortunate, because when you have a movie that has such great moments from Al Pacino, you want the rest of it to kind of fall into place. But man, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. No, it really is. And I think had I taken time out of my schedule to go see it in a theater, I think that's the other big difference maker is
Sure.
like, yeah. And I don't know, maybe Pacino's performance would have been the difference maker. But I don't know. You know what? Do we have anything else to talk about really with the movie, or
No, we can move on.
yeah, let's move on, because because my idea is centered around what is not just salvageable, but maybe like worth salvaging in this. And it's the story of twins who are different, who were close as children. They have their own language in this, and but who have really grown apart and who have become very different people.
Sure. Yeah.
And you have that, like, I'm looking to escape my Jack's side of it, where I am looking to escape my roots and reestablish myself. Although I have to say, something I did really appreciate about this movie is the keeping of Hanukkah as a central, like, that's the holiday that they talk about. They don't talk about, oh, okay, well, after Christmas we're going to do that. They're like, after, like, oh, you want Aunt Jill to stay to Hanukkah, and the kids are like, Hanukkah.
Right.
So I actually really, I did appreciate that. But otherwise, you have this guy who's like LA now and really fitting in there and all about image, and then his sister, who is clinging to her roots and, had this really close relationship with their mother, and is kind of, lost now without her, because she's, she's simply, you talked about, Stallone earlier. She reminds me of Adrian a bit in the first Rocky. Who's just kind of afraid, just so afraid to put herself out there. Yeah. And, kind of break away from what's comfortable. And I think, and I don't know that that's emphasized as much in the movie, but I would take that story and this story of sibling, like two people who, in terms of family, really, in terms of like blood, only have each other,
right?
And who are finding a lost connection. I think it's it's kind of a cliched story, but it's always going to be relevant. So, and I would turn it into, I would adapt it into a musical.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would have, I'd take out all the gimmicks. I would take out a lot of the characters. And I would really just focus on, this man, Jack, and his found family, his wife and his children, who are very much the idea of a found family. They've their son is adopted.
The kids, by the way, were great.
Oh yeah, kids are great. But you have, and what I like about the movie is that there's that value of found family, and the idea that the Katie, I'm terrible, I don't remember her name in the movie, but the Katie Holmes character converts to has converted to Judaism.
Sure.
It's mentioned, it's referenced, but it's not like, oh, it was a big, is Erin, that's her name in it.
Erin. Okay.
So but the idea of branching out from your roots, to extend the metaphor,
right?
The idea of branching out from your roots and finding those new things and creating new family, but also the importance of that attachment and not forgetting who you are in terms of where you came from. And in terms of at some point you started as that, and you can't lose touch with that part of yourself either. So yeah. I don't know what I would do with the story. I would definitely not. And this is sad, but I think, in the musical version, you're not going to have it be Al Pacino, even if you're having another actor. We're not that far removed where we could do that. If we were setting this in 1924 and it's Douglas Fairbanks or something, that's fine.
Sure,
we could do that, but it's kind of, you can't do that. So I would probably have it be a fictional actor.
Okay.
That he's trying to land for a commercial, and we'll take out you take out the whole Dunkin' Donuts, Dunkachino, which, by the way, Dunkachinos were definitely around long before 2011.
I don't go to Dunkin' Donuts. I haven't lived near a Dunkin' Donuts since 2007.
I have not. Yeah, no, but I definitely remember drinking Dunkachinos long before. I think I had stopped drinking Dunkin' Donuts pretty much by 2011.
As we know, the greatest Al Pacino beverage is booty sweat.
Different Al Pacino. That's Al Pacino.
Oh, that's right. It's the other Al Pacino.
Yeah, that's Al Pacino. That was a wonderful gag. From Tropic Thunder there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but so my musical would, the first part of it would take place at Jack's house, and then the second act would be the cruise.
Okay.
Because, you need to either
the cruise ship is interesting because there's the idea of being trapped with somebody. Unless, cruise of course, the celebrity has a helicopter and can take you off whenever they want.
Oh my God, what a wonderful sequence
just
that
weird.
Is. It's so weird, but man, just Pacino makes it work.
Yeah.
But I think that the musical, you're focusing on, you're stripping away the gags, you're keeping the plot of these estranged siblings. Could you imagine a whole musical number in their language that they come up with? The double Dutch scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They do double Dutch together on the cruise ship, and Jack kind of loosens up and you see them reconnecting. Those are great scenes. And also in theater, you could cast, as long as you cast an actor and actress who look, and you would cast a male identifying, I don't care, but you cast a male identifying actor as Jack and a female identifying actor as Jill, however you want to, whatever, but that's how you do it. None of that gimmick.
Sure.
All they have to really do to pull this off in theater is have a kind of vaguely similar look. And then you would use various costume things, behavior, like the scene in the movie theater where you see that Jack and Jill are doing everything.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's cute. And the kid, Gary, is sitting in between them and, noticing it.
Observing that they're doing everything exactly the same.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun. I like that idea. And also it's like, if there happened to be a set of actual twin actors, male and female, then that works even better. And it becomes like such a great like marketing gimmick. And it could be good.
But even then, they did Sideshow with two actresses who were neither twins nor conjoined twins, which Sideshow is about conjoined twins.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled that off. So, honestly, like, what else do you do with it, John? What else?
Well, one of the things that I do appreciate about a lot of these Adam Sandler movies, and because it's like he has created his own style of movie, his own little Adam Sandler universe of film. And I know that at least since they've been people, he's been honoring his daughters, Sunny and Sadie, in a lot of the films, whether they are in them or in this case, the name of his ad agency is Sonny and Saddlestein. His last name is Saddlestein. Is that right?
Yeah, Saddlestein. I might be. Yeah,
but it's in honor of
and they
Adam
are
Sandler's
also
daughters.
They make like tiny appearances.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now that they're doing like You're Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah and all those things, like they're making bigger appearances. But I do appreciate the way that he connects his actual family into his movies, and it shows a lot about the type of person that he is. And I do like the ad agency. I like that there's this Tim Meadows, of course, who works there. And I would love to kind of see an extended universe of Jack and Jill where Jack is not even part of it. Maybe he has sold his shares and is still like a name partner, but only a name. And it is, Tim Meadows and another, set of actors and characters who do these bad commercials with celebrity endorsements. And I think that's a really fun world to explore, that they did as much as they probably should have done in this movie, but it could have been taken a step further even. And I just think that's something in that world. I don't want to necessarily, I like your idea. I don't know if I would have gone musical, but I do like the idea of, the way that two twins who only have each other are experiencing trauma in different ways.
Yeah.
The loss of a loved one. And, but I don't think that I would want to do the one of them is really overbearing and one of them, has kind of lost track of their roots and is dismissive of their, what we would see as an annoying sibling. So, I think that as much as I would want to do would pretty much just be like an extended universe movie that focus or series that focuses on this like ad agency.
That's got, classic, comedy series written all over it.
As far as like shows about advertising, we have Mad Men, and this would be something very different from that. There's probably some other ones that incorporate it, but
there was the John Cryer show Teddy Z or something.
Oh my God.
Fabulous Teddy Z or something, where I think it was an ad agency. No, I think that's funny. I think the gimmick of the, celebrity endorsements.
Sure. Well, also, then that if it's a series, it can become one of those things where it's like a guest star of the week type of thing.
Yeah.
And they're playing themselves and they get to have fun, and Ted Danson gets to come on and do his Ted Danson thing. And then, maybe Patty Lupone has a guest spot or something like that. And I don't know. There's plenty of opportunities to bring in these guest stars and have them do silly things, and then they're not in it anymore. And I don't know, we don't really get a lot of shows like that anymore where it's that kind of style, the guest star of the week, Love Boat, Murder She Wrote style kind of thing.
No, yeah, but and you'd even you'd even bring him in for like a day of work.
Yeah,
be a day of work on this. Yeah. So yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think with the musical, I think the whole the scenario that you described works better for like in that musical format. It's that setup so that in Act 2 you have the turnaround and the
And also, let's say that this is kind of like a Rachel Bloom style series that could be musical. And they're like, the episode kind of culminates in the guest star doing their part with the jingle. And, it's like, it's not straight up musical where it's like there's, that was 6 numbers per episode, but like it culminates in one song.
It would be funny. Like, I wonder if they would have like in-house composers, or if that's like, if that just doesn't happen anymore.
I don't know.
I don't know, but no. That sounds that would be a fun show.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where my head was at.
Yeah.
I
honestly, I don't know what else you do with this. But,
and that's fine, and that's totally fine. The only reason why we are talking about Jack and Jill is because we are doing this series where we are going through the alphabet from A to Z and then from Z to A. So we have a full year of episodes. It's 52 episodes. And we like to be alliterative if we can be. If not, then it's maybe a one-word title. And Dan, before you tell everybody what we're going to be doing for K, I just want to thank everybody for listening. And if you haven't already, follow the show, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate, review, comment, subscribe on YouTube. All of these are on YouTube as videos, as well as Spotify. And really appreciate the comments that we're getting from people on past episodes on YouTube. Somebody was commenting about 3 Days at the Condor recently, and I really appreciate the discourse that it's led to. And what a great community. And also just YouTube is a great way for people to find not only this show, but other podcasts and shows like this. So that's pretty cool. I also want to say one other quick thing. And then aside from the fact that if you want to email us, ruinchildhoodspot@gmail.com, if you have an idea for a great idea for Jack and Jill. Another thing I want to mention is that there is a podcast that I know and love, and we have had a past guest whose podcast has just celebrated its final show, and that's Millie DeCherico's I Saw What You Did, that she hosted for 4 years with Danielle Henderson. And they have just released their final episode. It is where each of them picks a movie, and they talk about 2 movies per episode that are linked in some way, and they just talk about them, and they have fun bonus episodes. They play silly games, and they just released their last episode. I think maybe the day that we're recording this is when they released it. So big shout out to Millie DeCherico, who was on the Cutting Edge episode, and also kind of curated a month's worth of episodes for us to do, which was a lot of fun. And even though Danielle hasn't been involved with our show, just want to show some love because she is just an awesome creative mind, writer, podcast host, and has so many great stories, and a fantastic author too. So that's my just quick shout out. And then Dan, I'm going to throw it back to you. to let everybody know what we're going to be doing on our K episode.
Okay, K. No O, just K. JK. So we're going from J to K, and we're gonna make such a tonal shift. You're gonna get whiplash, because we're gonna go back from 2011, 40 years to 1971, and we are going to revisit the Alan J. Pakula thriller Klute, starring Donald Sutherland, Jane Fonda, Roy Scheider, and it's so speaking of those 3 Days of the Condor and 70s thrillers, here we go, a classic here, Klute.
Dan, I never heard the director's name said out loud. I always thought it was Pakula, like Scott Bakula. Pakula also makes perfect sense. So it's just one that I've always seen written but never heard it spoken out loud.
No, like Scott Bakula.
Scott Bakula, right, of course. No, Klute, I'm excited to talk about it. I love
Count
this
Dracula.
whole genre. I love the time period. Love Jane Fonda.
Yeah, I love Donald Sutherland.
Love Donald Sutherland. Rest in power, King. Yeah. And Dan, I'm so stoked about that one. I'm glad that we picked it. A lot of good K contenders. And so picking just one was a challenge, but I think that it's a pretty solid one. I think it's on Hoopla for anybody who is listening and wants to follow along. You can check it out there, or go find a store to buy it from or rent it from.
Yeah. Get your physical media. I think it's is it not in the Criterion collection?
I'd be shocked if it wasn't. There's probably sales going on right now with Criterion, so now's a good opportunity. And Dan, as you are climbing Al Pacino's helicopter's rope ladder to go party with him in Mallorca, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.